Welcome to the official Colorado Sports Hall of Fame podcast. I'm Jim Saccomano.
And I'm Dave Plati, and we are your co hosts. Between us, we have 88 years of experience working in media relations in Colorado sports. Myself with CU, Jim with the Broncos, and back in the day, both of us with the Denver Bears. And we've had several side experiences as well.
Most of our topics will center around sports history within and around the state, leading into the revealing of the state's top 150 moments heading into the state's sesquicentennial on August 1st, 2026. That's the date for Colorado's 150th birthday after being admitted to the Union as the 38th state in 1876. A select committee of state sports veterans, 9 of us in all with over 250 years involved in the state of Colorado sports, will be selecting those moments by the first of the year. We're planning to start that countdown the first week of January at a rate of 5 per week, and then daily for the top 10 come July.
And in fact, a subcommittee within that nine will start hammering out a first phase of those 150 moments this weekend. At the Denver Bronco Green Bay game, I'll toss in, so you probably can figure out who the three are. We are planning to have an occasional guest or two from those moments as they relive those with us on our podcast. All of our podcasts are archived on the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame website. That's coloradosports.org. Click on the menu bar and then on podcasts.
Until we start the countdown, we'll be revisiting some special Colorado December moments in Colorado sports history. Dave at present has isolated over 1,900 moments in state history, so we'll be recognizing an event or two on their anniversary dates. For example, a look back at some events from today, December 12th, in Colorado sports history.
And to show you that this is not all just recent, because as the great Dan Creedon once said, history did not begin when you began paying attention to it. On December 12th, 1925, Colorado A&M quarterback, and that's now Colorado State, Kenneth Hyde was named to the Associated Press Honorable Mention All-America team the first year that the wire service selected a team, which made him the first player from the state of Colorado to be an All-American by the Associated Press.
That is so cool, Dave. On December 12th, 2021, it was an emotional moment for many of us. The Broncos opened their game against the Detroit Lions with just 10 players on the field to honor former wide receiver Demaryius Thomas, who had passed away from a seizure on December 9th. The ex-receiver position was left open to recognize him before Cortland Sutton, who had remained on the sideline, joined his teammates for the first play after the Broncos were called for a delay of game penalty, which Detroit declined. Denver went on to win the game 38-10.
Any idea whose idea that was?
No, but it was a good idea at the time.
And it was pretty cool to witness, I'll say that.
Yes, I'll say that too.
Let's go back to December 12th, the year 2000. The most successful head coach in Adams State history, Darrell Mudra, is inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. His first head coach was his first head coaching job was in Alamosa, and in 4 seasons from 1959 to 62, he led Adams to 3 conference titles, a win over Northern Illinois in the 62 Mineral Bowl, whatever happened to that, and a 32 4-1 record overall. By the end of his 29-year career at 6 colleges, he owned a career record of 200 wins, 81 losses, and 4 ties.
December 12th, 1976. Though not known at that time, Denver Broncos head coach John Ralston won his last game at the reins of the team with a come-from-behind 28-14 win over the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. The Bears led 14-0 at halftime, but 21 fourth-quarter points rallied the Broncos to their franchise record 9th win of the season. Ralston resigned as head coach on January 31st.
And that 9 wins is a franchise record that beat 7 wins in 62 and 73, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So you know me in math.
That's correct. You are the man, Dave.
Okay, so we've cut through some history of December 12th. So today we're going to be reminiscing about some special events Jim and I were privy to. This is Heisman week, as you know, and they've got the 4 finalists in New York City to name the winner tomorrow night. CU graduate Chris Fowler has emceed that since 1994. That was the year that Rashaan Salaam won it. So it's special for all of us to have Chris MC that event that night. Um, and Rashaan was just the second player in the Mountain Time Zone to win the Heisman Trophy. And guess who the other one was? Do you know?
No.
Ty Detmer at BYU.
Ah,
He,
okay.
he won it at 90, beating out the Rocket, and then Mr. Eric Bieniemy was third that year. So a little history for you. So to help us reminisce about that Heisman week and what was going on here and there, we want to welcome in Derek West, senior right tackle on that 94 team who threw many a block for Rashaan to get to 2,000 yards that season. And Rashaan, of course, was inducted into the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame in the 2022 class. Derek, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Jim, Dave, appreciate you guys having me on.
You know, you've had a good week because I noticed your alma mater was the 3A champion last Saturday.
They were the fact that they're 3A is kind of crazy, but yeah, it was a big win for the program, and it's always good to cheer on Pomona. But yeah, real quick, just so you know, I happen to know the answer to that question, the Ty Detmer.
Good.
So, yeah, that's good.
Oh, that's very good.
It's fun hearing you guys reminisce about all these sports stories from Colorado. You know, I'm a fifth generation Arvada, and my dad's side of the family settled here in the 1850s. So, you know, grew up watching Denver sports. My dad's been a season ticket holder since '61, and so seen a lot of. And Dave and I talked last night about some memories of Denver sports. But yeah, it's so fun to hear you guys tell these stories. It's great.
Arvada is the legendary city in the state, sports-wise.
It's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one.
Pomona was 4 or 5A when you played.
We were 4A. It was a top classification at the time. We won the state championship against a Ben Gregory-led Montbello Warriors team. But yeah, we beat them in 1988. That was.
And we all miss Ben too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, well, Mr. West, you of course blocked your right tackle on that 94 team. Had many a block for Rashaan, of course. Before we get to Heisman week, why don't you relive for us the experience we had on that certain September 24th date that year when someone threw a really long pass and someone else tipped it and someone caught it. And where were you on that play?
So blocking, you know, just trying to hold off. I think it was Trevor Price. I can't remember who it was I was going against, but yeah, just trying to give Cordell enough time. We knew he had the arm to throw it that far, but you know, you could tell when the ball was in the air, the defensive lineman kind of let up, and we just all looked up, and that ball seemed to hang in the air forever. And then you see it get tipped, and then out of nowhere, Brooke, you know, Michael Westbrook just comes and just snags it out of air, and it was a dead sprint. As fast as us, you know, big linemen could run down there and party in the end zone. But what a cool experience that was. It was a frustrating game. And Dave, you'll have to help me out here. But
yes,
I think we had 5 or 6 turnovers that game. It was just one of those games like, I can't believe we're about to lose this game. We're a way better team than this. And it was just kind of a frustrating game, back and forth. A great football game. But to be able to walk out of that, especially for Coach Matt going back to Ann Arbor and being able to win a game in that fashion that's a memory that, you know, I'll live with the rest of my life. And it's, you know, considered one of the top college plays of all time. So to be a part of that is really special.
It's one of those moments that gives me goosebumps even talking about it now.
Yeah, it is. It was a blur. One quick story. I have a twin brother. He was going to school in Greeley at the time. Him and his now wife, but then girlfriend, drove out for that game. And I'll never forget, I jump up off the pile. I look over, and my twin brother is trying to get to me, dodging cops and stuff. So I was able to grab my brother and take him into the locker room with me and stuff. But yeah, what a cool experience and a cool moment for Colorado football and for all of us.
Of the 5 linemen, who was the first one to reach the end zone?
Probably Tony. Tony was the fastest of all of us, but I don't know. He might have gone running off somewhere else. But I know I jumped on the pile, and I was face mask to face mask with Westbrook at the bottom of the pile, and he's just staring up at me going, Derek, get these guys off me. I can't breathe. So we're trying to clear everyone off him and stuff. But yeah, it was chaos for sure.
And that, of course, was Tony Birdie, the left tackle. He's actually the one who was blocking Trevor Price, and then Price had slipped his block. And remember, Rashaan picked him up, held him off, and then that gave Tony a chance to gather himself, and then he pancaked Trevor. Yep. And of course, Jim knows Trevor because Trevor went on to become a Denver Bronco.
Oh yeah, that's a great Denver Bronco. Yeah.
So
I give Tony a hard time about that all the time. I'm like, dude, you're so lucky that Rashaan was there. Otherwise, that play never happens. But yeah, just good banter back and forth.
When did you realize Rashaan was a Heisman candidate?
You know, Dave, that's a great question. And preparing for the call here and just trying to, recall the season and heck, 31 years ago, just trying to remember all the highlights. I guess it would probably be after the Texas game. We opened that season against Louisiana Monroe, Northeast Louisiana. I can't remember, but
Northeast Louisiana with
big game there. And then I think at the time they were top 10, but defending Rose Bowl champion Wisconsin comes into Folsom and we absolutely destroy them. It was 55-13 or something like that. And
17.
Yeah, 17. Okay, good game there. And then obviously the Michigan game. And then Texas, I'll never forget that game. Hot day, everyone's getting IVs. Rashaan has 320 some yards rushing, I think over 350 all-purpose yards. But I don't know how many touchdowns. I think he only had one touchdown maybe because Herschel Troutman came in, and I think he had 4 or 5 touchdowns that game because Rashaan would run the ball down like inside the 5-yard line, come out for a quick breather, Herschel would come in and run the touchdown. But I think it was after that game, Dave, that we started realizing we got something here. And
he was special.
Rashaan was a pleasure to block for. He made it very easy for an offensive lineman. There was no hesitation with Rashaan. He would hit that hole faster than you could imagine. You just hold your block for a couple seconds. He's already to the next level. But he was not only a special running back, but just an amazing individual, a special guy. Just I could go on and on. There's probably enough time in this podcast to talk about Rashaan and the kind of man he was. But a true guy, a true pleasure to block for.
You have a pretty good memory. Actually, it was 317 yards and 45 receiving yards for 362. And I know a lot of the guys were getting IVs at halftime. I remember that game because we were sitting at the radio. I was doing stats for KOA, and we were actually outside. It was where they set the visiting radio station. So we experienced that heat, not to the degree you guys did on the field. But, yeah, the separation really kind of happened after that game because after the Michigan game, I remember a local talk show guy, I won't mention his name, but he hammered me for not starting a campaign for Cordell. And I was like, well, Westbrook just had 155 yards receiving, and Salaam had the most yards by a running back by a visiting opponent in the Big House in 21 years since Archie Griffin back with Iowa State in 1973.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there like going, I can't separate these guys. And then Rashaan does what he did. And, Westbrook's numbers kind of tailed off a little bit. Cordell hung in there for a little while longer, but really after the Nebraska game, when obviously we won't talk about that offensive game plan, but Rashaan still got his yards that day against the number 2 team in the country, and at that point things really took off for him. So, but talk about that Iowa State game, the season finale. A lot of stuff was going on that day, and Rashaan needed 196 yards to reach 2,000, and of course hit 2,055 with the 67-yard TD run. And the unique thing about that game was Mac came to me earlier in the week and said, I want Rashaan's yardage updated on the scoreboard after every carry.
Yeah.
I was thinking, are you crazy? Isn't that going to fire up Iowa State? And Mac's like, no way. He's going to get it. He's going to get the yardage. We did those yellow Goldenrod 2000 placards at the fans waving. So tell us what it was like to be on the field for that run, to experience in the stadium at that moment.
It was amazing. And back to kind of the post-Texas stuff, Dave, as an SID, to have 3 guys as Heisman candidates that time in the season, I mean, pretty cool. Pretty cool. But, yeah, Rashaan definitely emerged from that pack. And it was funny. Leading up to that game, we had a lot of conversations with Rashaan. And he's like, guys, listen, if I get this cool, it's not a big deal, man. This is a team sport. And that's just how Rashaan was. It was team first, everything. And he was so humble and just – we're like, no, dude, you don't understand. We want this more than you do. We want to get this 2,000 for you. This is our goal. This is what we want to set. This is what we set out for. We kind of, as the season progressed, change some goals here and there. We want you to get that Heisman because we take just as much pride in this thing as you do, man. This is a team effort. You're right. But this is an individual honor that we want you to have. So we, as an offensive line unit, just set it out in our minds to get him those 200 plus yards that game and get him over 2,000, which at that time pretty much secured him the Heisman. And I'll never forget, as the game went on, you're right, the stats were up on the scoreboard. We kept taking a look at it, so we knew exactly what he needed as we got into that second half. And then, it was like, I don't know, maybe midway through the fourth quarter. You have to help me out, Dave. But, call a off-tackle run, and I'm happy that it was called to the right side, so right over Chris Naoli and I. And he takes it down the sidelines for, 67 yards, and the legendary call by Zimmer was awesome, and the Folsom Field was electric, was going crazy. It was just such a cool. I'll never forget that day. It's like it happened yesterday, and just celebration for Rashaan. And I don't know, Dave. I mean, there had to have been 13 flags thrown that play for excessive celebration if they even had it back then. But
they flagged us.
It was awesome. And then, obviously after the game, we're all celebrating. That's when Coach Mack announced his resignation. So that kind of took a little change of emotion for the team, but a special day for all of us. And then fast forward a few weeks later when he's in New York and we're back in Dow Ward, they're celebrating as a team, and they go back to us via closed circuit, whatever it was back then. And all of us were up on bar stools, the offensive lineman, and I was the spokesperson for that. And to congratulate Rashaan from Boulder was a cool night. That was a fun celebration for us. And then we lit some victory cigars as an offensive line, and yeah, that was a fun time.
You talk about multiple Heisman candidates. It was a little hard to manage, but Penn State had two that year. Mm-hmm. And Kajana Carter finished second. Kerry Collins, the quarterback, finished third. But when you add their points together, Rashaan still beat them by some 400 or 500 points. But you worry when you have multiple candidates, because I remember 1989, Canavis McGee and Alfred Williams canceled each other out for the Lombardi Award because there were only 4 finalists. So you really, I advise my peers sometimes, you hate to say this, but you really got to get behind one horse, because when you got two, it's going to hurt. And I think Jim's probably had that experience sometimes.
Yeah, well, it was funny. It was fun. Sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Well, it's very difficult for a PR guy because you love all your players. You don't want to put one ahead of another. So it's really hard to say, oh, you should start a campaign for this guy or that guy. It sort of has to happen empirically, naturally, before you start it, because, boy, it's tough to jump on a guy who turns out to be the wrong guy.
Yeah. It's funny, Dave, back to that Iowa State game. I think it was sometime in the third quarter, Cordell broke a long touchdown run. And I remember we were talking on the side. I was like, dude, what are you doing, man? Those are Rashawn's yards. You can't. But yeah, it was fun.
You're right. Yeah. So, yeah, that was, I remember Bill Marold came to me in the press box and said, I got to speak to you. So, okay. And he goes, we got to go up to the roof. I'm like, what the heck? So I'm leaving, and so I come. He tells me that Mac's going to resign after the game, and right when he told me that, Rashaan made his run for 2,000 yards, and I was like, "What did you just tell me?" So I go back down as the media is like, "Okay, what's going on here?" And everybody thought it was something to do with our bowl announcement, and of course it wasn't. So I wound up going down. The only time I was on our field during the fourth quarter in almost 250 home games, and Mac looks at me and goes, "What are you doing down here?" And I go, I'm down here for what you're about to do in 15 minutes. And he just cracked a smile at me.
Oh, wow. That's a cool story. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. So, well, let's fast forward to the Heisman ceremony in New York. He's named on Saturday night. And he became buddies with Warren Sapp, actually. So after the ceremony, I'm not sure where they went. I went out with some of my high school friends being from New York. Sunday night, they had a Wendy's Heisman dinner. Monday night, they had a former Heisman winner dinner. And then a bunch of us went out after that. Chris Fowler, Mike Rozier from Nebraska, who I got to tell you, he is one of the funniest guys I've ever been around.
Yeah.
There were like 8 of us marching up and down Broadway, and actually really near the World Trade Center that year, into the Blarney Stone. So we had memories there. Then Tuesday night, there was another banquet. So we didn't get back till Wednesday morning. And the thing I was most proud of with Rashaan, if you remember, Rashaan did not like doing TV interviews.
No, he hated it.
After the Wisconsin game, he didn't want to do anything. And after the Michigan game, ESPN came in and remembered they interviewed almost everybody that had anything to do in that play. Mm-hmm. So I forced Rashaan to do it. He hated it, but he did it. So all during the course of the rest of the season, I had him do so many interviews that, hey, this is a Heisman voter. You got to do it. Oh, come on, Dave. And come on.
Yeah.
You got to do it. And most of them weren't. But it polished him to the point where he was really eloquent in a speech that Tuesday night, which I remember for 2 reasons. That, and I got to sit next to Yogi Berra and take a picture with him.
Oh, really cool.
While Yogi was there, I have no idea, but still. So we're coming home Wednesday morning. We're on United. We get on the plane. I'm carrying the Heisman. So right away, the stewardess comes up to us, tell you what, we've got first class mostly open. Why don't you guys sit up here? So, okay, cool. Probably an NCAA violation, but who cares? Well, we had the trophy, so we didn't want people touching it. So we covered it with a blue blanket and It looked like we were hiding ET, the extraterrestrial. And I've got a picture of it. It's really funny looking. So we land, and the pilot says we would like the two gentlemen from CU to get off first, including the Heisman Trophy winner, Rashaan Salaam. The plane gives him an ovation. And why don't you tell him what happened next?
So it was really cool, and something that probably would never happen nowadays. But so there was a handful of us, offensive linemen, some other teammates. We make our way out to DIA, get through security, go all the way out to the gate, and then they let us down the tarmac, right? So we're down, we're waiting right outside the door of the plane as Rashaan comes out. And, big celebration right there on the tarmac and welcoming Rashaan back. But, I mean, just a cool day that we were able to go out and celebrate with him at the airport. And then we went to a restaurant after that, Zang's, which, Dave, I got that picture. Thank you so much. Sure. But, yeah, we had a little celebration with Rashaan. And Rashaan, through the whole process, was like, I wish I could chop this trophy up into however many pieces I need and give everyone a chunk of this thing, because this is not my trophy. This is a team trophy. And that's just, again, back to Rashaan's character and the person he was. But it was a great week, a great celebration. And back to the multiple banquets that he had to do, Dave, I remember talking with Rashaan about that. And there was always that, I don't know if it was a Heisman jinx or you talk about guys going on the banquet circuit and putting on weight and they don't perform well in the bowl game. We made it a goal. We were playing Notre Dame in that Fiesta Bowl, and Rashaan was out to, prove everyone wrong, that this was a legitimate trophy and that was his. And I don't know how many yards he had rushing that day. I know he had 3 or 4 touchdowns against Notre Dame, but I know Cordell went off in that game as well. But, to see Rashaan respond the way he did in that bowl game, I was just proud of him. He was just the ultimate teammate, hardworking guy, humble, and just an amazing man.
He was pining for his teammates from the get-go. He wanted to leave on Monday. I said, we can't do that. And so
that's who he was.
And he was kind of spent Monday, and we had a chance to go to David Letterman, who I would have killed to do that, and he passed on it, and I understood why. Yeah. And then Tuesday afternoon, we spent like 3 hours waiting to meet Mayor Giuliani, and we were hanging around his office forever, and kind of a wasted day. But then he signed like 3,000 posters, so it really dragged. And now they're only back there for like 2 days instead of like the 4 that we were. But it was still a fun experience, and I think in the end he had a blast. He had a good time on Monday after that banquet with the former Heisman winners, because that was a cool experience. And by the way, you were down the jetway. You weren't on the tarmac. The tarmac's actually leading out to the.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, the jetway.
The jetway, right. To let people down the jetway now to the door of the plane. You're right. That never is going to happen again.
No. Yep, that was fun.
Jim, any other questions that you'd like to ask?
No, I don't. It's been really great talking to you, but I can't believe it's been 3 decades. I just can't believe it's been 3 decades, Derek.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's crazy to think back on, and it was fun. A couple years ago with Travis going through his Heisman campaign, it was fun to brought back a lot of memories. And unfortunately, we lost Rashaan on December 5th a few years ago, and to be a pallbearer at his funeral was. I said it at the time when Tony and Chris Nail and I were talking about it. That was kind of our final block for him. And, rest in peace, Rashaan, and great memories, guys. I appreciate you having me on to talk about this, because it's a memory not only for all of us as Colorado football players and fans, but, when we talk about the top memories and top sports moments in Colorado history, Rashaan's Heisman run through that entire season and capped off with the trophy is definitely up there. So to be a part of that is special for me, for all of our teammates, and for the University of Colorado. It's special times.
Well, we're compiling the top 150 moments, and I think that's going to sneak in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, Derek.
I know a certain pass play in Michigan will probably be up there.
Yes, it will.
Well, yeah.
Derek, you're welcome to hang on and listen to Jim, because Jim's going to talk about some experiences he's had with John Elway.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
It's interesting because now there's NIL money, and before that there's a scholarship, et cetera, et cetera. But most people, almost nobody, understands that John Elway did not have a scholarship his final 2 years at Stanford, because those were the days when if you signed for a professional contract in any sport, it negated the possibility of you getting a scholarship in any sport in college. Elway signed with Steinbrenner and the Yankees, so as a sophomore, so he could not play his junior and senior year for a scholarship. So what he did was he asked George Steinbrenner if he would pay his tuition his junior and senior years. And Steinbrenner said yes, of course he would. And so John Elway was not a scholarship athlete his final 2 years at Stanford. That's an amazing story, I think.
That is crazy. I think it worked out okay for John.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow, I did not know that. Great story, Jim.
What was it like managing John through the years?
Eventually, every request was John Elway, and we'd like to get Elway, and we'd like to get Elway. No, no, no. So finally, I went to him and I said, "Look, John, I want you to know I'm going to turn down everybody, but I'm going to tell you who's who. So I'm going to tell you this is what I've turned down this week. So if there's somebody you want to salvage or save, I can call him back and say you can have Elway on Thursday if you want him." And so that worked out pretty well. It was unbelievable. One time he would always not argue, but he'd say, "Why? Why do they want to talk to me?" And I said, "John, there's good players and there's great players. Then there are legends. And you're a legend. They just want to talk to you. That's all there is to it. They want you." And it worked out pretty well. And then especially the last couple of years, and this was due to Mike's influence as well. Mike Shanahan said, "Elway's going to be 5 minutes. You're going to stop it at 5 minutes." And that was very successful. I can think of guys, Bob Costas was sitting in my office and they were putting makeup on him and everything. And I said, "This is great, Bob. It's great." "Oh, yes. Wonderful, wonderful." I said, "Just so you know, every minute they spend putting makeup on you takes away from your 5 minutes with Elway." And he said, "What? That's enough makeup. Let's go."
That's crazy.
Yeah, but it was a serious thing. We had to stop it, and it was great because Elway liked it, and that's what we had to do. You had to give the press what they wanted, but there was a limit to how much you gave them as well, because there would never. Oh yeah, I had guys say, "Look, I'll walk away from the press conference with him. No big deal." I said, "Well, you won't be able to," and they said, "Well, why won't I be able to?" And I said, "Because I'm going to prevent it." I hate to say it, but when it's over, he walks through that door, which locks immediately, and that's it. He's gone. And as Mike Shanahan told me once, what you have to do is a lot of things that are against your nature, but you have to do them. And so I did, and it worked out very well.
Now in college, of course, we had to have campaigns. Sometimes we were horse trading votes for all America teams. When you were pushing John for honors or any player, what was the difference on the professional level?
Well, John didn't need much or want much, And I remember actually one time I had a conversation with the guy at the league office in New York, and because if you made the Pro Bowl but you did not play, you were not listed as a Pro Bowler. And I said, "Look, you got to change that, because eventually, years from now, somebody's going to look down and say, these guys, Marino and Elway, must not have been very good. Each guy only was in like 2 Pro Bowls." And so they said, "Oh, that's right." And I said, "You got to change that." And they did, to where when you were named for the Pro Bowl, you were listed as a Pro Bowler no matter what. And I have no regrets about doing that, because I thought it was a more valid indication as time goes on of your abilities. But he was something. He was really something. And Elway would be more likely to be hanging out with the linebackers and the offensive linemen playing cards or whatever. He was a tough guy, and he was not a prima donna in any way. He was a tough, tough guy.
Good stuff, Jim. Well, we like to conclude our podcast by highlighting one of our favorite "Did You Know" moments from our backgrounds with CU, Denver Bears, Broncos, or the state in general. Jim is up first, and he created a stat in use around the NFL now based from what I believe he is about to tell you.
Yeah, well, once upon a time, the writers were writing the stories. They said, "What is that? Elway's third come from behind thing in the fourth quarter? His fourth?" And I dig him out, and then I thought, Jim, you better get yourself in gear, and you better figure this out. So I called every team in the league that had a veteran guy like that, and I figured out what the fourth quarter comebacks were. So that was a stat that I created, really. And Elway had an NFL record 47, which may have been passed by now, but 47 is a lot of fourth quarter comebacks. I can tell you his dad was very sensitive about that because once upon a time I mentioned to Jack about John and Dan's success, and Dan had a good record, and he said, "Yeah, he did." Of course, he got 47 of those wins when he gave up the whole thing and told John to go ahead and make the calls. And that was the truth. Once upon a time, John said to me, he called me over afterwards, and he said, "Were you in there when Dan Reeves met the press?" I said, "Yes, I was." He said, "Who did Dan say called the plays on that last drive? Because I don't want to get in trouble." And it was John, of course. And at that time, I remember I said, "Look over there, the other side of the locker. You see Vance Johnson talking to everybody? By now, Vance has told him everything, everything. So you might as well just be honest and tell you about it." But his first comeback was against the Baltimore Colts, 19-0. We're trailing at home entering the fourth quarter. The first of what would be his eventual record at 47 comebacks. John Elway threw 3 touchdown passes to rally Denver to a 21-19 win. The game winner was a 26-yard toss to Gerald Wilhite with 44 seconds remaining. That capped a 75-yard drive. And I love all my guys. I love Gerald. But the fact of it is, Gerald missed his block on that play. Gerald missed his block. So you got a linebacker heading right for Elway. But because Gerald missed his block, he was standing wide open. Elway quickly threw the ball to him. Next thing I know, Gerald's backflipping in the end zone. Touchdown, success. So it is great, but he missed his block. What's happened to the play?
And that was on December 11th, 1983. Keeping with our December mod going here. And speaking of December 11th, this just happened last night. The Joker, Nikola Jokic, scored 36 points to lead 6 Nugget players in double figures as they killed Sacramento 136-105. That win added to the Nuggets franchise record of 11 straight road wins, and it now tied the 21st longest in NBA history. Longtime Nugget fans know historically Denver has struggled on the road, but so far this season they're 12-2. The year they won the title in 2022-23, their road record was 19-22. So for seeing Denver all of a sudden do this on the road when historically they've played well at home, the old ABA even they'd go 32-9 at home and be under 500 at home. So that's a cool note that's going on in Denver sports right now. At any rate, we hope you're enjoying our podcast. Keep spreading the word. We want to thank our 2 sponsors, Pasta J's of Boulder, 10th and Pearl Street down just west of the Pearl Street Mall. And we always like to point out the late Bill Walton's favorite Boulder eatery. And Colorado Collegiate Chronicle, an in-depth weekly look at college sports around the state, published weekly by Tim Simmons, another veteran state PR man who's logged in probably as many years as Jim and I have.
Tim has been great all the way through, frankly, and he is so modest he wouldn't say it, but it's the truth. As always, we look forward to you tuning in weekly to enjoy our reminiscing with our Colorado Sports Hall of Fame guests, as well as our trips back into the state's sports history. A reminder that the Colorado State Sports Hall of Fame class for 2026 will be inducted this coming April 16th at the Hilton City Center in downtown Denver.